Previously on Feargal Comes to Windermere.
By my calculations, over the last 5 years, water companies have spent almost 14 million hours dumping sewage into the environment. I genuinely, personally now cannot walk down the street without endless people wanting to stop to me and talk to me about sewage. And Peter says this plant isn't operating properly.
Yeah.
I'd be inclined to believe Peter.
With this idea of greenwashing within the environment sector now,
Yeah.
do you think the only way out of that is for those to step aside and to call a spade in this situation?
Basically, yeah. I think an awful lot of those environment charities are now actually more of a hindrance than a help.
Yeah.
In fact, they actually are a hindrance more than they'll ever be a help.
Yeah.
And until they realise that and confront it themselves, that's actually making life an awful lot more difficult for people like you to achieve what you know you can and should be achieving.
Yeah.
And some of that frustration, because they know, well, we'll just round up a few of the local environment charities and we'll keep them all in meetings for another 10 years. And in 10 years' time, everybody will be sitting there going, good, why were we all here in the first place?
Yeah.
I don't remember. So, continuing on my world tour glossy vision of the Northwest, and why am I here?
This is the solution as we see it.
Right.
This is what we're striving for when it comes to Windermere and all the rivers surrounding Windermere. This has no United Utilities input.
Right.
And as you can see, it's full of aquatic plants.
Yep.
It's full of invertebrates. The only main input here is agriculture.
Right. So we know that there's no loading from United Utilities. When people say farming, I'm curious as to how farming's making a contribution here. Because normally when farming, in my experience, you're talking about something in the background that is involved in putting huge amounts of animal waste on the land, like the Wye Valley, where it's endless tons of chicken manure, or indeed in the West Country, slurry from the nearest dairy farm. There's clearly none of that going on around here.
Yep.
There's a couple of sheep in that field. But I would be really curious and I would be really suspicious if anybody's trying to tell me that agriculture is in some way adding to the nutrient load in this river. I'm going to take a wild guess you just made that up.
Yeah, and that's what we're saying. When we look at this overarching solution, is our number one case study is Lake Annecy, because they saw the same issues that we're facing with Windermere now, which is increasing algal blooms, declines in the fish populations.
Okay.
And where they had the conversation, they went, well, what we could do is we could look at mitigation by reduction, let's see how that goes, or we could have that complete solution.
Listen, the Environment Agency and those bigger kind of so-called government bodies have spent decades running their strategy. Here's the clue. In 2009, 25% of rivers in England were in good ecological status. The current projection is by 2027, that will have collapsed to just 6%. Whatever theory they had, whatever credibility they had, that was shredded years ago. In my view, they shouldn't even be allowed input into this conversation anymore. I think they're on the right path. We just need to stop putting stuff into these rivers. That's it, full stop, amen. There's no need for another 20 years of experimentation, because guess where the last 20 years of experimenting got us? Things are now going to be worse next year than they were last year.
Yeah, and a green lake.
Hurrah. Job well done, everybody.
Yeah. Now, on to the next one.
Go.
Next time on Feargal Comes to Windermere.
This for us is just the epitome of the situation.
It looks to me like there's thousands of my fish dead on this river, yet the first person that turns up at the crime scene is the water company. So to use a well-known old Irish quote, you sent a boy to do a man's job. Big question. What do you do with somebody that's displaying that level of incompetence?